For those of you just joining us, my name's Daniel. I'm an account manager for Hudu. I'm with Jordan here, a product manager for Hudu. We'll be taking you through this monthly training, which is going to be focused on maintaining your documentation. So we've kind of went over the introductions here. Ground rules, I kind of just mentioned those, but we do these sessions once a month, and so we really want to make sure that the content we're talking about and the questions that we're answering are really focused on what we are talking about today. So really, that's the only thing that we ask for this meeting is we have other webinars that can focus on like feature request questions and items like that. These webinars are great for getting your questions answered along with these tools. And obviously, if you have feature requests related questions directly related to these tools, feel free to ask them. We're more than happy to go into kind of again anything related to this topic today. We will go over an overview of our documentation series, which is where these monthly trainings come from. Explore Hudu, that's going to be the bulk of our time today, going into the product and showing off these things for you. Some resources and obviously Q&A. We'll have a dedicated time for this, but also Q&As throughout. Like I said, we want this to be an interactive experience. If you have questions, ask them throughout. We're more than happy to answer your questions as they come in. So documentation series and just kind of what we've released so far. If you are new to this monthly training or if you're just joining Hudu, we do kind of we have a documentation series where each quarter we focus on a different section of Hudu documentation in general. We just kicked off here in quarter four, our section on managing your documentation. The previous section of the series that we focused on was going to be on structure and organization. But what we've released so far for this managing your documentation is two blogs, which I'll have Jordan link in the chat here. That's going to be a win for your customers, and then keeping your documentation in check. So those two blogs have been released. Those come with tips and tricks as well as downloadable resources such as a end user marketing guide that we built out for you if you choose to use it. If you haven't seen, take a look at our resource center, our blogs. There's definitely some helpful information in there for you. So take advantage of that. And if you have any questions on anything involving that, we're more than happy to answer those for you today. So now jumping into the platform, a big part of this maintaining your documentation is going to be the documentation review tools. So that's going to be a lot of our kind of time inside of Hudu today. And let me go ahead and jump right into Hudu and we can kick this off. Again, as questions come up, put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A. Jordan's monitoring that. Jordan will also be jumping in and answering questions live and talking about a couple of other things as well. So, if we don't have any questions to start this off, then I'm just going to start going into some of these items and going into this training. So, starting off with really change control. That includes activity feed and revision history in Hudu. These are super powerful tools that Hudu provides you, and if you're not using them, they can definitely be a game changer to how you manage your documentation and manage your users. So starting off, as anybody logs in, they come up to this dashboard screen. If you are, an admin and have the activity feed capabilities here, then you will see the activity feed, which can show who is viewing, sharing certain information, who is signing in, etc. And if I want to go check out the global activity feed, I can just hit this view all button. This takes me to the activity logs that we do have in our admin section here. And now we're able to sort by company, by action, by user, or even by IP address. So this can be a great way where if you want to see, maybe you have a technician that something happened and you need to go kind of check on this. Well, maybe Amy's the one that I want to check on here, and maybe I want to see if Amy deleted any passwords. She didn't. That's a great sign. So again, using these filtered options to kind of look through things and see, okay, if we do want to see deleted integrations, we can see that Dwight Schrute here did delete this integration. Maybe something happened and we want to check on why, who caused this to happen. This is a great way to handle that. So now we do have this global activity feed section here. Each of our items, or at least a good majority of them, are also going to have their own activity feed. So as I jump into a company here, and let's just jump into a KB article. And let's go into here. And now, so we showed off that global activity feed. Here on my right-hand sidebar, we also have an activity feed for a lot of these items. This will include passwords, KB articles, networks, racks, and assets. You'll all have access to this activity feed section where I can go in and I have the updates and the views column. The views is really going to focus on that activity that I just showed off. If I hit view all activity here, it's going to take me right back to that global activity log that I showed off earlier. The update side of things is going to serve as your revision history. Now, this can be a great way, similar to the activity feed and other change control mechanism, that I can see each time this article has been changed from its creation. So if I'm ever wondering why a password or KB article looks different, what were the changes that were made? This gives me that full audit log showing, each time this article has been changed. Let me go back to a previous version here, and if I ever need to revert back to that version, I'm easily able to do so. I can see who's making the changes, when they were made, and compare differences will show me the code of the article and allow me to see exactly what's been taken out and added in from that previous version. So like I mentioned, Hudu does have revision history for those passwords, KB articles, networks, racks, and assets. Same thing here. Maybe I want to go see, a expiration change or something like that. Well, I do have access to all of the updates on this desktop here, and I can go in, click compare differences, see, okay, this was what the warranty expiration used to be. This is what it is now. Jordan, anything to expand on there with kind of the change control mechanisms and kind of the benefits of using those in Hudu?
I think you covered a lot of it. The main purpose there is know who's been making changes, know what changes have been made, so you can keep track of that documentation. Um, as well as just on that dashboard, how he was showing off that activity log widget. You can go ahead and customize your dashboard. So if activity log is maybe not a priority that you'd like to see on that main dashboard, you could go ahead and hide it. You can rearrange it so it's the first item, the last item, really customize how you want that dashboard to look. And that would be on a per technician basis.
Awesome. Um, so next thing I really wanted to touch on here is going to be the museum. I do get a lot of questions on the museum going, just talking to certain customers and how you can best utilize it and really what is its purpose. We actually just had a question on this in our Reddit thread the other day, which it's funny. Jordan and I were talking the other day, and it seems like always before these monthly trainings, our Reddit starts to get questions with things that we're about to talk about during that monthly training. So, pretty cool just to see that. But if you're not utilizing the museum, essentially what it is it's going to be a archive for your old and inactive information that you have stored in this company. So here I'm in Atlas Inc. Here is our museum for Atlas Inc. Basically, we have our assets, process templates, articles, websites, passwords, everything that we have archived within this company. You can always unarchive things and bring them back into your instance or permanently delete them as needed. If I ever need to archive something, it's as simple as clicking into the item, hitting the more options, and hitting the archive option. This is going to send that item into the museum where then you can store, again, that old and inactive information. This can be a great mechanism for not only for change control, but also just to clean up your instance, making sure that if you're not needing some of your documentation in there, why have it in there? Why not send it to the museum where you can always bring it in back in if needed? Couple other neat things about the museum here is it is searchable. So for instance, let me just double check here. So within our museum, let's just say we have this article, how to delete items in Hudu. It's a good example here because it is in the museum. So as I type in our global search bar, how to, so here we see we have 6 articles showed up. If I hit comprehensive search, we'd obviously have a lot more populate. But as I hit the museum now, we see now we have 7. And that is because our how to delete items in Hudu did populate when I filtered on the museum search. So that way we can click into that article. And now we can see that this article was archived and it will show us the date. That is what showed up in the museum there. So again, it is searchable. The other nice thing about the museum is related items. Related items can still be created with items in the museum, and they will still retain their relationship when something is sent to the museum. So if I add a related item here with this asset, I can limit it obviously to this company or global, but then I can also select our museum items. This allows you to, even if something needs to be archived, but maybe you plan on bringing it back into your instance or you just want to retain that relationship, we can easily do so with those items that are in the museum itself. Next couple tools that I'll touch on here are going to be website tracking, expirations, and alerting, as this is a big part about maintaining your documentation, making sure that you're actually getting alerts on these things so you don't have to constantly be checking the expirations tool. You can set up those alerts that way you're getting sent an email or a webhook when something is expiring in your instance. So if you don't currently use our websites feature, or even if you do, it's as simple as adding a website URL, and the rest of the information on this page is going to populate for you. The expirations are easily identifiable, but if you ever want to look into all of your expirations across this company, you can go into the expirations tool. As I mentioned, all websites are automatically tracked here, but I've also added expirations for my articles for auditing purposes, warranty expirations for devices, subscription and support renewals for specific items. You can pretty much add an expiration for anything in Hudu, especially involving your assets using that date field type. We've showed that off in previous trainings, but if you ever want to track expirations in Hudu, just know that you can do that by utilizing that date field type. So a little more on expirations as well. This is obviously all of our expirations inside of this company. I can filter by certain items. I can also filter by what's expired. So you can see we don't have anything in here right now, but you can filter by time frame and you can also filter by type. So if I just want to see my article expirations, I can filter by that and only see those that are relevant. Now, there is also in our documentation tools, which is a big focus on today's training, a expirations tile. As I click into that, it's basically the exact same thing we just saw inside of a company, except this time it is global. I can see all of our expirations, again, applying those same filters, but this time it tells me the company that this expiration is applied to. So not only can you track those expirations within a specific company, but also doing it globally. Now, of course, to tie this all together, we do have our alerts in Hudu. Basically, you can create a new alert. You can do a single expiration, which will just give you alert for what item is expiring, or you can have the expiration list sent to you. And of course, we can do this X days before expiring. Maybe I want the expiration list sent to me 30 days before each item is going to expire. Maybe I want it sent to me 5 days. I can easily do so. And I can send alerts to an email address or configure a webhook. If you want to have your alerts get sent to a Slack or Teams channel, you can certainly do that here. And not only can we track alerts for expirations, but we can also do this for when something is created, updated, or deleted in Hudu. Let's say that I manage a group and I want to track when all of my passwords are getting updated because it drives me crazy that my passwords are getting changed and I'm not getting notified of this. So let me just go in, let me set up an alert for only passwords and when they are updated, and let me go ahead and send it to my email address. Easy enough. Now, each time one of my passwords in Hudu gets changed, I will be alerted for that and I can keep my documentation in check. Jordan, anything to expand on? I do believe we have a question in here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just expanding on kind of the expirations, there's also a defaulted dashboard widget to see any expiring soon expirations. So if you don't want to have to set up alerts, but you do want some visibility over what expirations are expiring soon, you have that dashboard widget, again, customizable on where you want it on that dashboard or if you want it at all. From each technician's profile page, as well as where you can go ahead and set which expirations or really the time frame that those expirations will show up. So down in those preferences and the expirations notification trigger days, Daniel has it set currently to 30, meaning any expiration within 30 days will go ahead and show up on that expiring soon widget. So that's just another great way to get visibility over what is coming or what expirations are coming up. We do have a question on the expirations and specifically the ability to filter. Is it possible to add my custom asset layout in the types filter list to have a specific expiration instead of other? So unfortunately, currently it is not. Those expiration types are limited to the ones inside of Hudu, which would be article expiration, and other would be for the asset layouts. The other filters there are coming directly from integrations. So domain and warranty, or sorry, domain and SSL are coming from that website tool, and then warranty would be coming from any integrations. We have talked a lot about adding additional ones or allowing the ability to add custom filters, but unfortunately, it is not currently in the product. That's something I definitely recommend. Visit our feedback.hudu.com page. Again, we love to hear feature requests and adapt the product to what people want to see. And we have heard that one a lot. So an upvote never hurts. We've got another question. How can I allow my team members, which are not admins, to see all expirations instead of going to each company? Unfortunately, that is not possible. That admin expirations is, or it's limited to admins. But we are actually currently working on a feature to bring a lot of those documentation tools to editors. We're hoping to complete that in the next few weeks, probably. And that will allow editors a lot more visibility into the documentation tools, as well as more global view of your information that does include expirations. So unfortunately, not possible quite yet, but it will be added into the product hopefully next month.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. We were doing this training this month because that's kind of a big focus in this quarter 4 is we hear all the time, I wish my editors could have more access into these documentation tools because right now the editors really only get access to a couple tools in there. And we've definitely heard that feedback. And part of this training is talking about all of our documentation tools. And so, just something to note is kind of that expanded access for your editors into more of these documentation tools, like Jordan said, is something coming soon and something we're super excited about. And hopefully you are too, because we've definitely heard a lot of feedback on that. Thanks for asking these questions as well. Again, always want this to be an interactive experience. So any questions that you have, more than happy to answer today. So next one, going off this theme with our documentation tools here, is going to be flagging in Hudu. So flagging is one of those things that it is a super awesome tool and very powerful. But we get a lot of questions on kind of how to use it and what flag type should I set up. One thing that I will mention is we did part of our kind of documentation series that I've talked about a little bit today is we host a AMA, Ask Me Anything, on Reddit with a Hudu customer that's been using Hudu a long time. And last month's was with Amanda LaChapelle, and she talked a little bit about how to use flags and also kind of setting up a review process. I'll go ahead and have Jordan link that in the chat here as well. That AMA was awesome. And if you haven't checked out kind of some of the questions, I'm sure questions you have were asked in that AMA, and Amanda went ahead and answered those. So definitely recommend checking that out. Now, starting off here with kind of flagging and the point of flagging in Hudu is really there's a couple different points here. And I'll start off by just going into our flag types that I've set up here, just because these are some that I've seen our customers use. One of those being a review process, kind of like what I just mentioned and what Amanda talked about a little bit in the AMA. We see this a lot of, the process, the kind of workflow being I have an editor that's writing a KB article. They go ahead and finish it up, leave it in draft mode, flag it for needs review. That way, your admin or whoever's doing the approval can go in, review the article, and then submit it. So that's basically how you can use flags for a review process. The other common flags I see are these items: incorrect, outdated, inactive. This can be a great way. I mean, we're all aware technicians are busy. They're going through this documentation quick and they need to, find what they're looking for and move on to the next thing very quickly. Flagging can be a great way for those technicians to go in and maybe they see something that doesn't look right. Well, let me go ahead and flag it and I'll come back to it later. That can be another super powerful way you can use flags is basically just leaving yourself like a note there saying, hey, this was flagged. This doesn't look right. Let's go in and take a look at this item. So again, the first part of this is going to be flag types. These are just your customizable flags. You can set what you want. You can set the color for them. Pretty straightforward here. Now, the other side of this is going to be the flag review section. Now, first off, let me jump into a company and show off kind of what a flagging system looks like. So for our KB section, the nice thing is flags is actually just one of your table tiles here. So I can see each article that's been flagged and what color flag it's been. Now let me jump into an article and let's pretend that I need to flag it. Same way I did the archive option earlier, I can go in and here we have the ability to flag. As I click flag, here you see all of the flag types that we just set in our admin section. And if I want to flag this for needs review, I can go ahead and flag it. Looks like I had already done an example of this earlier, but maybe I needs review and draft is ready. And then I can go ahead and flag this article. So now that it's flagged here, we have this green flag type, how to update Docker engine on Ubuntu. So now the other side of this is the admin section, which is the flag review side of things. As I click into flag review, here I see all of my flags that have been created by technicians, other admin, whoever it may be. Any editors and above have the option to flag items. And maybe I am an admin that is in charge of doing the review process. Well, now I go in, I click needs review, and I see how to update Docker engine on Ubuntu, which is that article I just flagged. I set the description as draft is ready. It tells me that I flagged it. And this was also because I had a flag of it earlier. That's why the date's not right there. But essentially now I can go in, I can see that Creed flagged this. I can go view the article. I can see that it has been flagged. Now I can go in, review the draft, and let's say I reviewed it. It's good for publish. I'll just go ahead and remove the flag, and now that flag is gone. So that's just an example of how you can kind of utilize the flagging process to whether it be a review process or maybe I'm going through things and you'll see like a flag here on another desktop flagged as incorrect because it's not the right IP address, currently can't track it down. Something like that for your technicians to just go in and quickly be able to do this flagging system. It can be super powerful for maintaining your documentation. Jordan, anything you want to expand on there? Or I know we had a question that you responded to in the chat here, but any other expansion that you want to talk about with this would be great.
Yeah, so we did have a great question. Can I set an alert for when an article is flagged? Use cases to open a ticket to documentation team for team to review flagged KB as outdated or incorrect, and go ahead and update them. So it's not possible to specifically get an alert when a flag is added, but you can go ahead and get an alert when a KB is updated. So unfortunately, that could be multiple different updates. It could be a flag getting added, or it could be a change to the article. But you would be able to see, if a flag is added and that article is updated, you could get an alert for that. And then just yeah, expanding on flags a little bit. I like to think of them as adding sticky notes to your documentation. Like Daniel mentioned, we're busy a lot of the day, so being able to kind of throw that sticky note on the documentation and come back to it when either you have more time or just to ensure that everybody reading that same piece of documentation is aware of potentially, you notice something that was inaccurate. Go ahead and add that inaccurate or needs a review flag add some comments, and then everybody on your team, whenever they view that same piece of information, would be aware that this might not be some a piece of documentation to trust as it stands right now.
Yeah. Great addition there, Jordan. And if you want to expand on this is kind of more of that user role level question with the flagging here.
Yeah, absolutely. Francesco, what is the thought process behind not letting authors use flags? It's something we've talked about quite a bit in the team. I believe right now you would have to be an editor or above to go ahead and utilize that flag. With the expansion of kind of that global feature that we were talking about earlier, we are going to kind of reevaluate what each user role has the permissions to do, and hopefully add some abilities to customize that as well. Truthfully, with the flags and the authors, that was those user roles and their abilities have been set in stone since the start of Hudu. So we are going to go ahead and explore that. The thought process there was just limiting the editor's abilities a little bit more by adding that additional role of author. But we'll go ahead and we're going to go ahead and evaluate kind of those permissions again. Definitely something I'd recommend throwing in our feedback.hudu.com page so we can collect all the feedback we possibly can prior to expanding on those features.
Yeah. And great questions. And just like what Jordan mentioned, if you haven't been to our public roadmap, feedback.hudu.com, we are extremely customer oriented in the fact that almost all of our updates that we release stem directly from what's being added and upvoted on that public roadmap. If you want to go in there and upvote the features you want to see and add the new ones you see, that you would love to see in Hudu, then that just helps our development team look through those and figure out kind of what is the next best thing to add to Hudu. You can actually do that directly from your instance as well with just this request feature option. So if you didn't know that, take a look at that. The roadmap, again, I highly recommend upvoting everything that you would like to see added in Hudu. Um, it definitely does go a long way. So last documentation tool, I'll really talk about a couple of these, and I will start by saying a couple of these documentation tools have already been talked about in previous trainings. A couple will be talked about in future trainings. If you really want to, we got a question, can we downvote too? I wonder what you want to downvote feature request for. Currently, I don't believe that's possible, though. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
I'd have to check the functionality of the product we use. I don't believe it allows downvotes, but I'll check on that.
yeah. But again, if you want to see any of these other documentation tools today, more than happy to kind of show them off and just talk a little bit more about what the whole use case and point behind those tools is. But the last one I really wanted to touch on today was the documentation quality side of things. So documentation quality is a unique feature in Hudu, another documentation tool here that is basically almost scoring your documentation, giving your companies a documentation score based on what you have populated within their asset layouts. So this can be a great way. You can see as I scroll through this first page here that we have a lot of one-star companies. We have a little bit of a two-star here, and then we have some four and a five-star. Now, again, this is a great way to show us this isn't necessarily talking about how great our documentation is. This is giving us a check and saying, hey, we have this company that is a one star in our documentation quality. We should probably go take a look at this company and figure out why they do have a one star. Why don't they have some of these assets added? Do they use any applications? Or why are there zero in there when there are documented applications for every other company? Again, can really just be a great way to kind of score that documentation company by company, making sure that you are, having each company documented to the way that you want, and you're not kind of leaving a company out that maybe just has that one star carried over. The rating is calculated it'll tell you right here, but it's the number of asset layouts with at least one asset divided by the total number of active asset layouts. So because this is a demo instance and we have created a lot of asset layouts in Hudu, we're going to have a lot of one-star companies because we have so many asset layouts created here. And it used to look a lot worse, but I've went ahead and deleted quite a lot of them. But again, Jordan, anything you want to expand on with the documentation quality aspect
You
of
know,
things?
not feature wise, yeah, it's really just a good way to go ahead and audit the documentation and the companies that you have. Make sure that you have good information in each of those companies. If you're not utilizing an asset layout, it's a great way to go ahead and see that. And potentially it's time to go ahead and inactivate that asset layout because it's not being used for a majority of companies, or potentially migrate the data if it's only being used from one to, say, a new asset layout. One of the big things that we recommend with Hudu and with any documentation, IT documentation, is creating review processes. And so this can be a really good step of do monthly or quarterly audits of your documentation to make sure that the information you're containing or storing within Hudu is really useful for your technicians. Again, the whole point of Hudu is to speed up those technicians and make them as efficient as they possibly can at doing their job. And if there's a lot of excess information or even excess organization, so maybe you're breaking things apart too far that it's actually making it harder for your technicians to find some things, that can all be part of that documentation review process. Again, I would recommend doing that at least quarterly with your team, seeing what information, going through flags, going through which asset layouts are useful for your team or which ones are being utilized, and then documenting that review process as well. So you have step by step tasks to complete while you perform that review. Amanda in that AMA that I linked earlier does a really good job of outlining what her documentation review process is. She's also got a ton of other things in terms of processes that she and her team go ahead and do either quarterly, monthly, even on a per article created basis for that. So I definitely recommend checking that out. If you haven't already, she's got some great knowledge on how their team utilizes Hudu and what's worked, what hasn't worked, and so on.
Yeah, and if you it's a great point and kind of leads me to if you weren't here for last month's monthly training, our training was on utilizing processes and KB articles. That's what Jordan is talking about having that documented process of maybe a quarterly audit trail or something like that, where you're going through your documentation and you're going through expirations, flagging, documentation quality, even leaderboard, and some other things like that. That's exactly what Jordan's referring to. So if you aren't using processes and you're curious about the nature of them, go back, check out that monthly training webinar. We go through a lot of different use cases of processes and kind of the different items that you can do with that. So I am going to jump back into the slides here. And I know I scheduled this for an hour. We always schedule our monthly trainings for an hour. Um, a big part of this, obviously, like I've mentioned, is the interactive process, the Q&A. So that's all of the content that I had ready for you today. Now, again, if we want to give you back 25 minutes of your day, that is completely okay. If you have questions and you want to get the answers, we're going to stay on for quite a few minutes here just to make sure that we get those questions answered. So if you have questions, toss them in the chat, toss them in the Q&A. We will answer these, but I am going to finish wrapping through the slides here just in case if you are ready to head out for the day and you want some of your time back, that is just okay, no problem at all. So resources coming soon, more blogs coming shortly, more tips and tricks, more training sessions. This is kind of the bulk of our documentation series that we've been doing is these blogs, tips and tricks and trainings. All of these together have been a really great experience. And whether you want to read through a blog, whether you want to see a quick tip and trick, or whether you want to join us for a training session, and obviously we have a lot of people watch these back as well, kind of giving you a piece of all of the puzzle for all of these features that we have with Hudu. Other thing exciting, 2 weeks from not even less than 2 weeks, we will be at
Yeah, a little
IT
less than two
Nation.
weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy. Um, Booth 306, we were there last year. Definitely met a lot of you, a lot of our customers. It was really cool just to meet you and say hi. Actually be face to face is something that I don't think people in our industry get too often. And so definitely if you are there and want to come say hi, then please come and introduce yourself. Let us know that you've been on these monthly trainings or whatever it may be. Again, booth 306. That's November 6th through 8th in Orlando, Florida. Um, and come get some swag. We'll have some swag there for you. If you've been there before, I'm sure you have some of our swag as it is. I have a pen from Hudu right here, as well as a koozie in my desk drawer. Where to go for help? We have our support site, contact us site. Again, if you are ever needing help with really anything, reach out to us. We definitely try to make this as easy as possible. And if you've ever, submitted to our support team before or our contact us form or talked with Jordan or I, we're more than happy to hop on a call with you. We're more than happy to email with you and make sure that those questions get answered and that if you're having issues, our support team is going to do everything they can to help fix those. Um, and then I always plug our communities too, because I think these are very powerful sites. We mentioned the AMA on Reddit. We do a lot of events like that on Reddit, and Jordan and I are actually in there quite frequently, responding to questions and posting various things. So I highly recommend if you're not active in some of these channels, I do recommend checking them out as we have a lot of customers that are providing resources for items as well. And then, like I mentioned, blog, stay up to date with releases. Like Jordan mentioned, we're hoping to have that release for kind of additional customization for those documentation tools coming soon. Stay on the lookout for those. Stay up to date with our blog. We'll post our release stuff in typically on our blog, Reddit, socials. So really, as long as you're following us on one of those places, you'll be able to see not only the content we're putting out, but also the release nature. So thanks for joining everyone again. I will go ahead and give you back 20 minutes of your day if you choose to. If you have questions, Jordan and I are going to stick on for a bit and make sure that all of your questions get answered. We'll probably stay on for about 5 minutes here, and then if there's no questions that come in, we'll hop off. But obviously, I can kind of monitor the attendees list here, so feel free to stick around. Otherwise, we'll just kind of be chatting here with Hudu. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day if you don't have any further questions. Um, Jordan, anything else that you think is worthwhile touching on today?
In terms of maintaining your documentation, I can't hype on or harp on the documentation review enough. Again, tons of great resources in that Reddit in terms of creating those, what other people are doing, and yeah, MSP Geek, another great community channel for us. And just a place for people to bounce ideas off of each other, see what other people are doing, how what's working, what's not working, and yeah, check out that last training webinar on processes to really understand the power that those can provide your organization. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. Please feel free to ask any questions. Shoot us an email, jordan@hudu.com or daniel.nelson@hudu.com. We're more than happy to go ahead and answer those for you. And that would be
Yeah,
any questions, non-training
yeah,
related if you'd like. I know we kind of limit the questions that we get in these, but we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
yeah. And just a slight plug into next monthly training. It's going to focus on similar topics to what we did today, but more so on the user management side of things. Those being internal users as well as end users. And so with that comes some other documentation tools. It comes with external portal information. It comes with permissions, obviously. Hope everyone's enjoying that first step of our new permissions update and kind of revamp process. Definitely heard some great feedback on that so far, which has been super encouraging. But all right, well, it doesn't look like we're gonna have any more questions today, so we will go ahead and wrap up. Again, thanks everyone for joining. Good to see those familiar faces as well as some new ones. My name's Daniel. I'm an account manager. My email is daniel.nelson@hudu.com. Reach out to me for whatever you need. I'm more than happy to help answer anything or hop on a call if needed with you. And yeah, you want to close us out here, Jordan?
Yeah, just thanks for joining. Hope to see you at the next one. Hopefully, we can show off some of those new features that we talked about, and they finished with the development. We'll go ahead and show those off next time if we're able. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.